Hi, my name's Glenn and I'd like to take this opportunity to talk to you about MEGANITE solid surface. MEGANITE is 100% acrylic solid surface material and it's been a leading brand in the USA for over 20 years and now it's readily available in Europe. We currently have a collection of 69 decors on stock in Europe. This is our standard sample presentation case with the 69 decors in. So we have a range of solids through to very vivid bright colours, a lot of translucents including granite translucents that you can backlight, through to a large collection of metallics, and especially in the white decor we have a couple of additional benefits. First, we stock as standard extra wide sheets, so we have sheets that are 1500 millimeters wide as well as 760 millimeters in width, so double the sheet size. And also we have the best thermoforming white in the industry, which is called Flexi White. Gives you the chance to do the tightest radius possible in thermoforming. And now we've just launched our new collection, which is called Movement Collection. This is a range of veined effects, so trying to get as close as possible to real marbles. Currently now we've just launched 3 decors in this range. MEGANITE is used for many applications, residentially, for kitchen and bathrooms, and has been used commercially all around the world by leading corporate brands for various applications. So now we want to go through the main working techniques with MEGANITE. So working with the product every day, the general techniques that you would be involved in. First thing, important thing to notice is that when you're working with the material, you're working with standard woodworking tools. So standard woodworking machines, standard saw blades, standard router cutters. So you need very little investment to start to work with the material. Next important thing to note is when you receive the sheets have a protective film on them. The finish under the sheets is already 320 grit finish, and very important, on the back of the sheet, when you turn the sheet over, you will find the MEGANITE logo and, importantly, a batch number. The other important thing to remember is how to get really nice seamless joints. So the glue we're using, it's the strongest glue for bonding strength, but it's not going to make the joint disappear for you. So you've got to make sure that you've got good joints dry. If you've got a good dry joint, always then you'll have a good joint when you come to finish it. So that means always, whatever we're gluing up, sharp edges, no chips on the material, and of course when we clamp it together it must be absolutely tight with no gaps. So for example, if I was preparing to do an edge now, this is the kind of quality that I'm looking for. My edge pieces I've checked, they're nice and sharp, there's no chips on them, and when I put them together I have no gaps. If you work to this quality, then always you will get nice seamless joints. Okay, so once we've prepared the MEGANITE, we're happy with our joints, that we've got a tight gap, we've got sharp edges. Now we're going to go into seaming the product. So the most common thing we're going to do every day is actually gluing an edge. So again, if we're going to glue an edge, when we've glued it up, this is basically the position that we want it to finish. Okay, so we want to finish with our edge about 1 millimeter back from the edge of our worktop. That then gives us something to trim off with the router after the glue has dried. So one of the things we have to think about is, probably most of the time our edgings are going to be quite long, so maybe 3 meters. So one of the things we have to think about is, when we put our glue on here, it's quite thick. This is going to start to slide. So how are we going to get it exactly 1 millimeter back all the way along? So the easiest thing to do is is, first of all, just go along the edge and just clamp it dry, like so, in position. So you only need a few clamps to locate it where we want it. And then we're going to cut some blocks, can be MDF or plywood, doesn't matter. And then as a temporary locator, we're going to put, with either hot melt or instant bond, some temporary blocks like so. And then when we push up to the blocks, we know that it's in the perfect position. So today I'm just going to use instant bond on here. Other important thing is, when we come to clamp up, the maximum distance we want between each clamp is 10 centimetres. So again, most fabricators use spring clamps. Again, the reason being is if this is 3 metres long, they're going to need 30 clamps. So again, with these, it's really fast to clamp up and it's a one-man operation. So once we put our blocks on and we have it in the right position, the final thing we always have to do is we always have to clean any area that we're gluing. Okay, so it's important we have no pencil marks, pen marks. If we have print on here, we need to remove the print if it's in the location where we're going to glue. And for this, we use denatured alcohol. So this is either methanol or ethanol. And here I'm using wipes already soaked in the denatured alcohol. So again, it's important you're using clean, obviously clean white wipes. And we need to thoroughly clean all our edge pieces, and we need to thoroughly clean all our underside of our worktop. At this point now, we're ready to start the gluing process. Okay, so this is the MEGANITE adhesive. It's an acrylic adhesive. It's a 1 to 10 mix. So this is the resin, this is the hardener, and together you get 2 mixing nozzles so that they come together and mix in the nozzle. And of course, you will need a gun. So this is the gun applicator. There's a red button at the back here which allows you to move the ratchet. This slots into the gun like so. Then we can remove the cap, remove the separator, and then this locks on, and then we're ready to use it. Once we've finished, take off the nozzle, put the separator back in, and then we can store it and use it at another time. It's 250 mil. This will do about 12 meters of edging. We then have a smaller cartridge, same system, so this is 50 mil, and again resin hardener. Again, comes with 2 mixing nozzles like so, and this will do about 3 meters of edging. Gun to go with it, slots into the gun. You remove the cap, this locks on like so, and then you're ready to use. All the adhesives has a date on it. This is the date the adhesive was made, and the glue is good for 12 months from the date of manufacture. So again, if you don't use all of it, you can store the cartridge and use it again at a later date. Okay, so now we're ready to glue up the edge. So for this example, I'm going to use the smaller cartridge, the 50 mil. The 250 mil, the process will be exactly the same. A good tip to start with, especially if the adhesive's more than 6 months old, is just when you remove the cap, it can be sometimes a small amount will gel on the end of the nozzle of the end of the cartridge, and this can sometimes clog the actual nozzle. So first of all, before you start, when the glue's a little bit older, you can always just check that both are running okay, first of all. Now we can apply the nozzle, which again just locks on like so. Now, before we start to glue, always we never use the first amount that comes out the nozzle. Again, this is in case the hardener doesn't start first. If there's no hardener in the first part, it will never go off. So always we get rid of the first amount that comes out, like so, and now we're ready to apply the glue. So when we're applying the adhesive, we run along like so. And then we always come back, in other words, we always do 2 passes. This is to ensure that the hardener thoroughly mixes with the resin. Now we're ready to put the edge on. So first we take our edge piece, and normally we're going to get it into the position we want it by hand, hold it tight up against the block, and then we can just put first a few clamps on to get it into the position, tight up to the blocks. Once we're happy with the position, then we can quickly infill with the rest of our clamps 10 centimeters apart, like so. Once we've glued up, always we're looking for this constant bead of adhesive, and then we know we don't have a dry joint somewhere. Okay, so now we're going to show how we would seam a joint. So the technique is basically the same as doing an edge. First thing that's really important when we're doing joints is that, again, when it goes together, we must have an absolutely clean, tight joint. So again, sharp edges, no gaps. So again, you're not normally going to do that if you cut that directly from a traditional saw. So the best is cut your worktop slightly oversized, and then we're going to get a router with a straight cutter in it, put a straight edge on it, and then we're going to router it, and then we know we're going to have perfect edges go together. Once we're happy with the joint, that it's going together nice and tight, once more we need to clean it with the alcohol, like so. We leave the tops apart about 3 millimeters, and now we're ready to start the same process with the glue. Once more, don't use the first amount, and then we apply the glue into our joint. Again, 2 passes, make sure it's thoroughly mixing. And then by hand, we can pull our joint together, again, making sure we've got a bead of glue all the way along, that we're not going to have a dry joint. And then finally, we're going to clamp the joint together tight. And then once more, we need to leave it to dry for about 45 to 60 minutes. Okay, so now we're going to go through the finishing techniques with the MEGANITE product. So for any finishing we're doing, we're always using a circular orbital action sander like this, at minimum 150mm diameter pad, so that we get a nice flat finish on the material. And we can achieve 3 different finishes on the product. We can have matte finish, which is 320 grit, we can have satin finish, which is 600, and we can have semi-gloss finish, where we go up to 1200. Okay, so now we can go back to our worktop piece where we've glued an edge on and show how to finish this. So once the glue's dry and it's hard, so after 60 minutes, now we can remove the clamps, like so. We turn our worktop over, and now of course we need to remove this excess glue and trim it black flush. So again, the easiest way to do that is, if you take our worktop, and now we're going to use standard router with a standard trimmer cutter with a bottom roller on it, and set it up that we can run off this bottom edge, which is obviously clean, and now we're going to trim off all the excess and make the worktop edge flush. Okay, so once we've trimmed our edge and it's nice and flush, now we can begin the sanding process. So first of all, just on our edge where we've machined it, we need to use something like 180 grit just to flush that off and then we can go on to 320 grit and finish the whole top to a matte finish. So first I'm just going to go along the edge with the 180. And I'm happy that that's now nice and smooth. And then I'm going to change over, and now I'm going to finish the whole surface with a 320. And now the top is finished to 320 matte finish. So now we're going to show you how to finish generally the dark colour in Meganite, because obviously the importance here is one, that we have an absolutely flat finish, and secondly, of course, normally the end customer wants a really nice deep colour with a semi-gloss to finish. So normally what we're going to do is we're going to start with 320 grit as the first. Then we're going to use 600 grit, and then finally we're going to use 1200 Super G finish. So the important thing first of all is the technique. So I'm going to go along the worktop all the way along, like so, and then I'm going to pass it over at 50% and come back the other way. And I'm going to do that technique all the way along the worktop. So once we've done that in the length, we're going to do exactly the same thing in the width. Passing over at 50%. And then finally, because we've been sanding in straight lines, now we're just going to go random and just blend the whole sanding in, like so. Okay, so now that's 320, a matte finish. So now we're going to go up to satin finish. So now we're going to use a 600 grit that we have. And so first of all, always we need to remove the dust between each sandings, because we don't want to be sanding dust. So we use a special dust pads to just take away the dust first of all. And now we're ready to start the process now with 600. Now this is a special paper that we have for solid surface. If you're using a traditional paper, you won't be able to go straight from 320 to 600. You'll have to go 320, 480, 600. So again, now I'm going to do exactly the same technique all the way along the worktop. Pass over 50%. And then the same in the width. And then finally we're going to go random and just blend in the sanding. Okay, so now that's taken us up to satin finish, 600. Again, now we're going to remove the dust. And now, if it's a really dark colour like this, we recommend that we go up to semi-gloss. So now we're going to use this. This is 1200 Super G pad. Again, it's a special pad. If you're using traditional papers, you're going to have to go 600, 800, 1000. So again, with this, we can go straight from 600 straight to 1200. Same process. Again, you can just remove any dust from the surface. And then finally, we use a special polish that we have, protective polish, called Solid Surface Shine. So again, this will make the colour a little bit more deeper and give it a little bit more of a semi-gloss appearance. And also it helps to protect the surface. And the way that we apply this is that basically we just apply it onto the surface like so. We wipe it over the whole area, so we wet the whole area with a cloth, soft cloth. And then finally we get a dry soft cloth, and then we just buff the surface by hand, dry. And again, basically this polish is waterproof, it's food safe, so again you can prepare food on it, no problem. And the point is, you can give this polish to the end consumer, that in the future, if they get a scratch or something, then they can rub the scratch out, spray it with the polish, and then maintain the same finish.